Neil Young is one of the most legendary singer-songwriters of all time. His influence as a folk rocker and the godfather of grunge puts him in a unique place where only few artists have ever reached, and his music is something I've connected to since I first heard it. Ranking all of his songs would be pretty much impossible because there's like 1,000 of them, so I decided to just do his 70's catalog, as that's when he was in his prime. I also included Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere because I just had to, but sadly no Harvest Moon, so the title track, which would have placed very high, is down on the list. The albums included are Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, After the Gold Rush, Harvest, On the Beach, Tonight's the Night, Zuma, Decade, American Stars and Bars, Comes a Time, and Rust Never Sleeps. Neil Young has quite a few goofy tracks in his catalog, which makes sense because it's a very large one. Songs like Motorcycle Mama don't stick out whatsoever, and the only benefit you get from listening is a quick laugh. Harvest is one of the most beloved country rock albums of all time, and I think it deserves that status, but even I can't defend A Man Needs a Maid. I understand it's not a sexist song, it's more about Neil's own struggles to maintain a relationship, but I just can't listen to this song without feeling a little uncomfortable. Also, I'm not a big fan of Neil's more ballad-like work. Bite the Bullet is not a bad song, unlike the first two on the list. It's just really basic. It really feels like anybody could have wrote the song, and it just doesn't fit right with Neil's style. There's a World is a Neil song that uses way too many orchestral elements for my own liking. I like music with those parts, but I don't think Neil uses them very well. This song just feels melodramatic and it's difficult to get into. I like the lyrics though, and Sufjan Stevens' cover is really good. Homegrown is the way it should be. I have a similar problem with Homegrown as I do with Bite the Bullet. It just feels basic. The only reason it's higher is because I prefer the riffs on here a bit more. In the field of opportunity. Comes a Time is Neil's most forgettable 70's album for a reason. Most of the songs just feel like leftovers. Field of Opportunity just feels like a dime a dozen folk song. And while it's not bad, I just know Neil can do much better. Hey, American Stars and Bars is just a country rock album. Like, it has some standouts, but the majority of the songs are similar to Hey Babe. You listen to it, think it's pretty solid, and just want to listen to more of his creative albums. I think it's just a weaker Zuma, which has way better straight-up rock songs. Just a stupid girl. Well, speaking of Zuma, Stupid Girl is the worst on the album. This song has some sick riffs and good vocals, but the lyrics just kinda rub you the wrong way. Neil is the opposite of a misogynist. He's a great guy who is more accepting than most artists, but listening to stuff like Stupid Girl still gives me a weird feeling in my stomach. Already Won is a pretty folk song, and I like the chord progression. It doesn't do too much to separate itself, but it doesn't really need to. It's a fine song. Saddle Up the Palomino with some of the more dense and layered stuff on the album. A lot is going on and it definitely holds your attention, though I do think it has some of his weakest melodies. I can never for the life of me remember the chorus on this song. Will to Love is a longer song compared to the rest of the album. It's also not a rock song, it's an acoustic folk song. It has a haunting chorus on it that really sticks with you, and the guitar work is very memorable as well. My biggest complaint is that it's just too long. Now my name is on the line. Human Highway might be his most country song ever. I am a country fan, so I do like it quite a bit. The chorus is good, and Neil's singing is great. Hey, hey, Cripple Creek Ferry. Cripple Creek Ferry is the minute-and-a-half outro to After the Gold Rush. Yes, it's the worst on the album, but I think it definitely has a place on it. It's super catchy, and it's just a fun ending. Are You Ready for the Country? Are You Ready for the Country is a great piano rock song. Everything is done pretty well, and while it's not one of the best songs on Harvest, I don't think it brings down the album like A Man Needs a Maid and There's a World does. That old country waltz. The Old Country Waltz is super pretty. Whenever I listen to that happy earworm of a chorus, it just makes me want to close my eyes and take a nap. The backing vocals on the song are also great. It's gonna take a lot of love. A Lot of Love definitely grew on me. It has more of a groove than most of Comes the Time, and I think that's very needed because it's not the most funky album. Neil's singing is great on here, and the production sounds solid as hell. I also love the chorus. Welfare Mothers is goofy as fuck. It's by far the worst on Rust Never Sleeps, and can feel out of place, but it kinda grew on me. This album is probably Neil's heaviest and darkest stuff, and this one is just a mood lifter, and the riffs are also amazing. It's not trying to be a masterpiece, so it's unfair to penalize it for not being one. Till the Morning Comes is one of Neil's shortest songs. It's really just one melody played over and over again with soft and gentle instrumentals, but this shit is so pretty, like it just makes you want to lay down in some field with a ton of flowers. It's not a normally structured Neil song, but it just leaves you with a warm and happy feeling.
Love is a rose, but you better not pick it.
Love is a Rose is one of the original songs on Decade. It's the worst, but I still like it a lot. The melody is super catchy and gets stuck in my head all the time. The guitar work is awesome on here as well. So while it's not as memorable as the other three, it's still something I listen to frequently.
Come on, baby, let's go downtown.
Come On Baby, Let's Go Downtown is the worst on Tonight's the Night, just because it's not as serious as the rest of the album. Tonight's the Night is also in contention for Neil's darkest work, and this song just doesn't match that energy. It still slaps though.
Peace of mind.
Peace of Mind is super pretty. It's one of the best on Comes a Time and grows on me every time I hear it. Neil singing on here is just otherworldly. Songs like this make me remember why I love his voice so much. It's just so unique and pretty, and he puts it all on display on this track.
I'm a vampire, babe.
Vampire Blues is one of the few Neil songs where the bass line is the best part of the song. It's not as melancholic and depressing as most of On the Beach, which is why it's my least favorite, but this shit is just groovy as hell. The lyrics are pretty cool as well. Neil talks shit about the oil industry and how they're sucking the earth's blood.
The deep forbidden lake.
Deep Forbidden Lake is such a relaxing track. I love Neil when he's making music like this. Gentle acoustic guitar and soothing singing with a dreamlike chorus. I just want to listen to this song while on a rocking chair next to a lake while watching the sunset because it's just beautiful.
Roll another number for the road.
Roll Another Number for the Road is a pretty standard song on Tonight's the Night. It's very country heavy with some dark and heavy lyrics about death. It also has a large use of piano, quite like the rest of the album. I like this album a lot, but sometimes the songs kind of blend in for me, so don't be surprised if the tracks from this album are kind of near each other on the ranking.
I feel like going back.
Going Back is the most progressive song on Comes a Time. It's pretty ambitious compared to the laid back and simple vibe of the rest of the album, which makes it maybe the most memorable on the album. The guitar work is great, Neil's vocals are top notch, just like most of the album, and the track goes to another level when it starts to get groovy.
Through my sail.
Through My Sails is the most mellow song on Zuma, which is a pretty heavy album, but not only does it fit perfectly in the context of the album as a breather from the heavy stuff, it also is just really pretty. It's almost a lullaby, with the dreamy vocals and guitar work that is just hypnotic. I love when he says standing out on the shoreline, because it makes me feel like I'm doing the same thing.
Look out, Joe. You're coming home.
Look Out Joe has some awesome riffs. Neil's singing is also so good on this song. It's nothing like most of his other songs. His voice is way more deep and it sounds like it's full of despair. Every time he sings Old Times Were Good Times, it hits hard as hell. This song just slaps in general.
For strong winds that blow lonely.
Four Strong Winds is the peak of what Comes a Time was going for. It's super pretty, the guitar work is simple but so good. Neil sings his ass off and it has a gentle but powerful groove to it. I only recently discovered how good this song is, but I can guarantee you it's gonna grow on me even more when I keep listening to it.
New mama's got a sun in her eye.
New Mama is such a chill song. The guitar is great and so is the piano, but the biggest appeal on here is Neil's singing. It puts it at the front and center, sometimes even with no instrumentals at all, and he delivers on it. It's a short song, barely above 2 minutes, but I think it's pretty chill, and I like listening to it a lot.
When you're on the losing end.
The Losing End is the worst on Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, but I think it's awesome. I love the melodies on this song, especially the Won't You Ever Change Your Ways and the I'll Make It Somehow. It's super catchy, and Neil's singing makes it even better. The lyrics are also pretty heavy. Neil feels lost and confused, but no matter how hard it is for him after the breakup, he remains optimistic. This song is super underrated, even by me sometimes.
Dream up, let me fill your cup.
The title track on Harvest deserves to be the title track because it consists of everything that makes the album great. It's peaceful, pretty, lyrically powerful, and filled with awesome guitar work from Neil. This song is pretty simple on the surface, but it gets better as you listen because there's a lot to unpack.
Hold back the tears.
There's a big leap from Hold Back the Tears and the last American Stars and Bars song. I just love the melody on this track. Neil holds every note for a few more seconds on his vocals, and it gets me every time. The chorus is also pretty damn good. The lyrics on here are also cool, with my favorite being 2 lying fools, and then 4 crying eyes. I also love how the song wastes no time and shows its chorus immediately. It's just a great experience.
And the world on a string.
World on a String is funky as fuck instrumentally, but Neil's singing is powerful as hell on here. That's where I think Tonight's the Night is at its best. Neil's singing is full of despair and agony, with crushing lyrics, but the guitars and drums are just jamming out, with a touch of piano to it. It's like you're just sitting there with a lump in your chest while Neil is just playing his ass off. It's a very unique experience. Winter Long is a great song. The production is really good, Neil's singing is solid as hell, and it's just a bop start to finish. I don't know how this never made it on an official album, because it's an absolute banger. Alabama is basically just a progression to the amazing chorus, and it hits every time. There's also some cool stuff going on guitar-wise, with some heavy stuff, which is unique for Harvest. The lyrics are cool too, especially "Your Cadillac has got a wheel in the ditch," but really the appeal here is the chorus, as it's one of the best on the album.
Everybody knows this is nowhere.
The title track on Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere is a short and tight song, and it's just a bop. It has a memorable punch to it, with some standout guitar parts. Neil's singing is great on here. I especially love his la la la's in the background, and his repetition of Everybody Knows near the end of the song. This song might not blow you away, but it's just a banger. Drive Back is the worst Zuma song that actually sounds like a Zuma song. Like, Through My Sails is great, but it's not a rock song. Zuma is the peak of Neil and Crazy Horse's rock abilities. The riffs are awesome, the electric on the song is so grungy and dirty, and while the melodies aren't as great as other Zuma songs, they still work really well on here.
Pardon my heart.
Well, Pardon My Heart is another song on Zuma that's not a rock song. I prefer it over Through My Sails because the longer duration just allows you to get more lost in the dreamy atmosphere of the song. The vocals on here are just phenomenal. They put you to sleep, but in the best possible way.
Round and round and round we spin.
Round and Round It Won't Be Long is totally carried by the chorus. Neil's singing of It Won't Be Long is beautiful, and the backing vocals make it even better. Neil has backing vocals on a lot of his tracks, but this might be one of his best uses of them. The vocals on here are also haunting, quite like the rest of the album. Neil's storytelling, especially when he sings about his friend looking over an edge crying, is one that gets me every time, and the overall theme of death on this track makes it hit very hard.
Mellow my mind.
Mellow My Mind is very few people's favorite Neil song, but it definitely has a role. It just fits perfectly on Tonight's the Night. It consists of everything that makes the album great, and the particularly great harmonica playing makes it stick out more. I also love the way he sings Ain't Got Nothing on Those Feelings I Had. It sounds like he's in pain when he sings it, and it's delivered in such a great way.
Where even Richard Nixon has got soul.
Entering the top 50 we have Campaigner, the second best original Decade song just because it gets me in my feels. Neil's singing is just amazing on here, and everything feels so powerful, even though I have no idea what he's singing about. There's a constant theme of Richard Nixon having soul, whatever the hell that means, but you don't really need to understand the lyrics to feel the emotions that the song creates.
For the turnstile.
For the Turnstiles is as stripped back as Neil gets. There's a few guitar parts scattered here, but really it's just Neil's raw singing over a banjo. It creates such a lonely feeling, one that On the Beach does so damn well. It's super simple, even compared to the rest of the album, which is probably his simplest. But that's not a knock on it at all, because it puts Neil's passionate and powerful vocals at the center of the track, and it always gets me emotional.
Saw you on the bar stool.
Barstool Blues is one of those Neil songs that just slaps. Zuma is probably the album with the most slappers, and Barstool Blues is just one of the songs that makes me think that. The track just has awesome riffs throughout.
Tonight's the night.
Tonight's the Night Part 2 is slightly worse just because I think the track works better as an opener than a closer.
Tonight's the night. Yes, it is.
Tonight's the Night is a really good title track. It's as blunt as the album gets with its focus on death. He even mentions dying on the mainland, referring to Bruce Berry. It's a heavy listen, but it's an emotionally powerful one, and it sets the atmosphere for the album perfectly.
Out on the weekend.
Out on the Weekend is like the opposite of Tonight's the Night. It sounds super happy and gets me in a good mood. The melodies are super catchy, and Neil plays the shit out of that harmonica. I also love the bass line on this song. The whole track is just a pleasant experience and one of the more enjoyable songs on Harvest.
Speaking out.
Speaking Out is some of Neil's most heavy usage of piano, and is some of his best. It creates such a mellow atmosphere, and this sticks out even on an album as mellow as Tonight's the Night. The other elements are great on here too, with Neil singing and guitar work being memorable, but really the piano is the reason I come back to this song so much. It gives the track its own personality and something to set itself apart from Neil's catalog.
Comes a time.
The title track on Comes a Time just makes me happy. Comes a Time is probably Neil's happiest 70s album. It's nowhere near his best, but whenever he executes the positive vibes being explored on the album well, you get songs like this and they're just a great time. This song reminds me of like The Shire or something. It's just pretty and Neil's singing is great. The female vocals are also great. I mean, this whole song is just great.
I'm singing this borrowed tune.
Borrowed Tune has always been one of my favorite Tonight's the Night songs. I love how it's basically just piano and harmonica. It's similar to Speaking Out with its mellowness, but this one is even more mellow. The lyrics are also really memorable on here. Being too wasted to write his own lyrics with his head in the clouds, it really just gives you this image of a guy in a fucked up mental state due to the death of people close to him. This song just wrecks me every time, and it's one of the most difficult Neil songs to listen to for me, but in the best way possible.
Looking for a love that's right for me.
Looking for a Love is just a nice song. It's pretty groovy, and the lyrics are wholesome. Neil is just hopeful to find a partner. Instead of it feeling lonely, it feels optimistic, like Neil is looking forward to meeting somebody. I especially love the lyric, another reason why I want to live and make the best of what I see. The person Neil is waiting for is someone that can make life worth living, and that's a happy image to imagine.
As long as we can sail away.
Sail Away is the first Rust Never Sleeps in a while, and that's because almost all the songs on the album are in the better half of the list. This one is not quite as memorable, but it still goes hard as hell and is no slouch compared to the rest of the phenomenal acoustic set. The song is just really pretty, and Neil's harmonica was going crazy. I'm not entirely sure of what the lyrics are trying to say, but I like to imagine that it's optimistic, which is much needed on this album.
I'm gonna ride my lamb from Peru to Texarkana.
Ride My Llama is like goofy in a way, but like I still love it. It paints this picture of like this old dude who's just like totally out of it but has a shit ton of wisdom. At least that's what I imagine when he sings, I met a man from Mars, he picked up all my guitars and played me traveling songs. That lyric is one of my favorites from this album. The guitar work is pretty simple, but it fits the folky vibe of the song. I also like the image of Neil riding a llama. This is one of those tracks that is just really fun to listen to, and makes me laugh and gets me thinking at the same time.
Look out for my love.
Look Out for My Love is my favorite on Comes a Time, which means that's the first album that we're done with for this video. It's pretty impressive that every album has at least one song that's in the latter half of the ranking. It just shows how Neil knew how to make an awesome song in super unique ways. This song is super simple, but I just love listening to it. I love the idea of Neil's love being some kind of weapon, and he's warning the people around him about it. I also love how he gets progressively more passionate as the track moves on. The guitar on here is phenomenal as well. This is just an amazing folk song.
Walk on, walk on.
Walk On is the misleading opener to On the Beach. It's far and away the grooviest song on the album. It has a punchy chorus and a rock-based production style, and it slaps. I also love the lyrics where Neil is basically just going with the flow. He's ignoring his haters and saying how he can't tell them how to feel about his music, which I respect so much in an artist. The song is pretty short, but the amount of unique and impressive guitar work on here is insane, and it makes it an awesome listen.
Feathers fall around you.
Birds is one of the many ballads on After the Gold Rush, and it's great. The whole album is beautiful, and you can probably tell how much I love the album by how many songs we haven't gotten to on the list yet. I mean, songs like this are just gorgeous. The piano especially is amazing on this song, and Neil's singing matches the atmosphere so well. The song is about the passing of relationships and the growing up that comes with it. It's one of many emotional and powerful tracks on After the Gold Rush, and it's bound to strike a chord. Oh Lonesome Me is one of the most depressing tracks on the album. It's about Neil's loneliness and alienation from the rest of society. It's a theme that's common on a lot of Neil albums, but not as much on After the Gold Rush. But the idea is delivered so well, especially because of that damn harmonica. Seriously, the harmonica on here is fucking great. Neil's a beast with the instrument, and it creates such a bluesy vibe, and I love it.
Between the lines of age.
Words Between the Lines of Age is the longest song on Harvest, and it definitely deserves that runtime. It feels way more cinematic and heavy than the pretty mellow and happy tracks on Harvest, with the heavy use of electric guitar. It's progressive as hell, and as the song gets more complex instrumentally, Neil gets more passionate, and by the end of this song, you're just left to sit there and take in what you experienced. This is the best non-single on Harvest by quite a bit in my opinion. It's just awesome. Don't Cry, No Tears is just an amazing rock song. It has every good element that a rock song needs: a good bass line, great riffs, catchy and memorable chorus, well-produced drums, and a solid vocal performance. It's pretty much a perfect rock song, and it's one of many perfect rock songs on Zuma.
Open up the tired eyes.
Tired Eyes is one of Neil's most unconventional songs. It can feel all over the place at times. It has a shit ton of instruments being played throughout, with most of them overlapping and coming in at random times. Neil's singing is often breaking and screechy, and there's even parts where it's just Neil speaking and telling a story. But everything is executed well, and it ends up sticking the landing in an unbelievable way, making it one of the most memorable songs on Tonight's the Night. I can't really decide whether I like the acoustic or electric side of Rest Never Sleeps better, but songs like Sedan Delivery make it hard to say that the electric is not just as memorable. The guitars are just so dirty, and the sound of the electric never sounded like it before this album. This song also has really cool melodies and just a weird and out there structure. The repeated singing of Gotta Get Away and to the otherworldly guitar bridge gets me every time. I'd say this is the most underrated Rest Never Sleeps song. Nobody really talks about it, but it's awesome.
I've seen the needle and the damage done.
The Needle and the Damage Done is a legendary Neil song and one that made him as respected as he is today. It's only 2 minutes, but it's 2 of Neil's most emotionally powerful minutes. The theme of heroin being a cause of death for Neil's friends and loved ones is further explored on Tonight's the Night, but I don't think the haunting concept was explored as well on that album as it is on here. Lyrics like A Little Part of It in Everyone and Every Junkie's Like a Setting Sun put on full display how Neil had a closer view on the damage of heroin addiction and how much it affected his outlook on the drug. It's perfect that this song only consists of an acoustic guitar and Neil's voice, as it allows for Neil's straightforward and powerful lyrics to hit at full effect. When You Dance I Can Really Love is one of the punchier songs on After the Gold Rush, which is mostly a pretty mellow album. It feels like a leftover from Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, but I love that album, so I don't really have a problem with that. This song just slaps, plain and simple. The guitar work is great, and the production feels grand and it pulls you in immediately. It's probably the second rockiest song on the album, and I think it fits perfectly in the context of it as well. And it works just as well, it's just a banger rock song. Pocahontas is such an interesting track to me. It's just really strange and creative lyrically, with Neil creating a hypothetical situation that consists of him, Pocahontas, and Marlon Brando. It's about the mistreatment and injustice towards Native Americans, and the unique way in which Neil conveys his message makes it stick out to me. The guitar work on here is also great, as well as Neil singing. I especially love the backing vocals on this song. It just gives more weight to Neil's lyrics, which are the main appeal of the track.
And now I'm running dry.
Running Dry Requiem for the Rockets is one of Neil's most haunting songs. It creates a cold and eerie atmosphere, and there's no sense of optimism that is ever brought into the track. The usage of the fiddle on here creates such tension, and that is matched and elevated by Neil's serious and focused vocals. The song makes me feel claustrophobic, but in a good way. The lyrics are filled with loneliness and regret, and all these elements come together to create one of Neil's most hopeless and heart-wrenching songs.
Maybe the star of Bethlehem.
I think everyone has one song from an artist they love that they like way more than anybody else, and for me that's Star of Bethlehem. I just love the vocal melody on this song. It's so happy and upbeat sounding, and Neil is just killing it with the singing, and the harmonica as well. It's a super simple folk song, but it's just one that's always connected with me. I especially love the end where he says maybe the Star of Bethlehem wasn't a star at all. I just love how he holds the all for a few seconds and then it just fades away. This song is just so fun and gets me in a good mood. I Believe in You just sounds happy as hell, and it's just an amazing experience of a song. It's not too complex and creative for Neil's standards, but he was really just at his peak when making After the Gold Rush, and could just put out masterpieces like this without even trying. His singing is on point, the piano is great, and the lyrics are super cool too. They're pretty vague, but I'm pretty sure it's about the uncertainty of a relationship and whether the feelings are real. This song is just pretty damn amazing. It's a pretty much flawless song.
But only love can break your heart.
Only Love Can Break Your Heart is one of Neil's biggest songs that's not on Harvest, and is deserved. This is easily one of Neil's catchiest melodies. It's just an absolute earworm, and I can never get it out of my head when I finish listening to it. The song has short verses, and it's mostly the chorus. It just shows that Neil knew he had something special here. The verses are great though, and full of great lyrics. The I Have a Friend I've Never Seen lyric is especially powerful to me. It just makes me think of somebody who just goes into isolation after getting his heart broken. This song is pretty self-explanatory lyrically, but I love how Neil can take even the simplest song topics and add his own unique elements to it. He's really just a genius songwriter.
I got the revolution blues.
Revolution Blues is a pretty haunting song about the Manson murders, but it still slaps harder than anything on this album. It's super groovy and way less depressing than the rest of On the Beach, but it still doesn't feel out of place due to the heavy subject matter. This has some of Neil's best guitar work and some amazing drumming too. The whole song is just a banger. Albuquerque is my favorite on Tonight's the Night. I just think it's such a genius song. It captures the mellow and lonely feel of the album, but it still has more punch than anything else. The chorus goes so hard, and Neil's focused singing makes it even better. I also love the guitar work on here. It sets up such a nice groove to the track. The whole song just feels organized and structured so well, which is unlike a lot of the weirder songs on the album. And while usually I love creativity in music, sometimes it's good when a master songwriter just writes a perfectly made song, and this is one of them.
See the sky about to rain.
See the Sky About to Rain is one of the songs on the Beach that makes it the masterpiece it is. This album perfectly captures the feeling of melancholy. Like whenever I put this thing on, I can't help but get nostalgic and sad at the same time. It's an album that makes you reflect, but it doesn't sacrifice the quality of the music just for casual listening as well. This song especially has a great groove to it, especially when the drums kick in on the chorus, and that moment just gets me floating every single time. The guitar on here as well just sounds so damn incredible. Neil knew what he wanted to do on this album, and he did it better than anyone else could have done.
When the thrasher comes, I'll be stuck in the sun like the dinosaurs in shrines.
Thrasher is one of the many serious and emotional tracks on Rust Never Sleeps. The real appeal of the song is the lyrics. Some of the lyrics are disses at Crosby, Stills, and Nash, like "So I got bored and left them there, they were just dead weight to me." There's lyrics like that throughout the song that are pretty harsh and very blunt, as most of the song is Neil being glad that he has left his old friends and moved on with his life, as some of Neil's most deadpan sounding vocals as well, which I think makes the lyrics even more powerful.
Motion pictures on my TV screen.
Motion Pictures for Carrie is some of Neil's most depressing stuff. The whole song is very lo-fi and quiet, with some of the most melancholy guitar sounds ever recorded. Neil's vocals seem like he's just given up, and it's a very powerful song. The lyrics have Neil pretty down on himself, talking about his lack of motivation and goals. The most significant moment of that theme on the song is when he says, "I'd rather start all over again," which is one of my favorite moments on the album. But the final verse has a sense of optimism that I think makes the song. The lyrics, "I'm deep inside myself, but I'll get out somehow, and I'll stand before you and I'll bring a smile to your eyes," are some of Neil's most powerful. This song is very depressing listen, but the bit of positivity at the end is what makes it so special.
Danger bird, he flies alone.
Danger Bird is an almost 7-minute long masterpiece. The guitar work on here is phenomenal, with some of the heaviest riffs Neil has ever recorded. Everything on here also sounds so polished, and while sometimes I like the dirty sounding production on Neil's songs, I think the clean and smooth sound of this song make it so memorable. It's not really a track where you need lyrics. The main appeal is the production and the instrumental work, especially the drums and guitar. It also helps that Neil's singing is passionate as hell. It makes this whole song feel so intense and just awesome. Like a Hurricane would have an eerily similar script to Danger Bird. It's an 8.5-minute long epic with some of Neil's best electric guitar and his most powerful singing. The lyrics have a bit more to unpack on here, and there's more melodies, which is why I think it's a bit better than Danger Bird. It's also longer, so that makes it better as well.
You can't be 20 on Sugar Mountain.
Sugar Mountain is a song that sticks with you the more time you spend with it. Sugar Mountain is about growing up and the passing of time, and how you can't enjoy the things that you used to enjoy when you were younger. It's one of the few songs that makes me nostalgic, which just shows how emotionally powerful this song is. The best part of the song is that Sugar Mountain is really just a metaphor. For Neil, it was a county fair that he couldn't enjoy as an adult due to the responsibilities of being a grown-up. But Sugar Mountain could really be anything that gives you a sense of youth, one that ultimately ends up fading away due to growing up. But it's always something we can look back on to remember the good times, and it gives us a warm sense of peace and happiness. And I think that's just beautiful songwriting. Down by the River is an absolute classic song from Neil. It's often regarded as one of his best, and is one of his most well-known songs, and that's all for great reasons, as this song is an absolute masterpiece. It's very lengthy, with it being over 9 minutes long, but it never feels too long, and you're left totally satisfied by the end. Neil just absolutely kills it with the guitar work on here. It creates this intense and epic atmosphere, while at the same time just leaves you speechless when he just starts shredding. The chorus on the song is also one of Neil's best. It feels like this grand moment whenever it comes in, as most of the song is built up to the chorus. This whole song just feels like a movie, and it's awesome.
I wanna live with a cinnamon girl.
Cinnamon Girl and Down by the River are two songs I've always linked together, probably because they're track 1 and 2 on Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, and I think the album opener is a tiny bit better. It's way shorter, with only a 3-minute long runtime, but it makes the most of those 3 minutes. This song is one of Neil's best riffs, if not his best. Whenever that dirty and grungy riff plays, it just gets my head moving every time. I also appreciate how ahead of its time this song is. Like, this song came out in 1969, and it has that same vibe as 90s grunge. The whole final part on here is also just so epic, with that awesome guitar sound, and then everything just comes together. I mean, I could listen to this song on repeat for like ever. It's so awesome.
Southern man, better keep your head.
Southern Man is the hardest rock song on After the Gold Rush, like by far. It's such an intense and serious sounding song, with tight guitar work and drums. But the element that really makes it so powerful is Neil's vocals. They sound so desperate, almost like screeches. Especially the part where he repeats how long, it just gives me chills every time. And of course the lyrics make the song even more meaningful. It's Neil's prominent song that focuses on racism in America, and it's one of the most important songs on the topic in general. To this day, this song is some of the most intense and passionate rock music you will ever hear.
Don't let it bring you down. It's only castles burning.
Don't Let It Bring You Down is really just a flawless song. Neil's folk rock sound was perfected with songs like these. Neil's shaky and powerful vocals are at its peak, and the guitar work is as well. But the part on this track that really makes it so high on the ranking is the chorus. Don't let it bring you down, it's only castles burning. Find someone who's turning and you will come around. I mean, Neil's lyrics are just awesome, and it's always been one of my favorite Neil choruses, both melodically and lyrically. It's pretty depressing, with castles burning being a metaphor for destruction, and the don't let it bring you down in my eyes is Neil saying it doesn't matter. But like Neil does a lot, he ends his depression with a bit of optimism. The second part of the chorus, I believe, is Neil telling the listener to find something unique or special, and to let it inspire you to become a better and happier person. These lyrics are up for interpretation, like a lot of his lyrics, but this meaning is one that has made me connect with this masterpiece of a song the most.
Hello, cowgirl in the sand.
Cowgirl in the Sand is Neil's longest song of this era, and my god, does it deserve to be that long. This track is just phenomenal start to finish. It's super progressive, as you get more into it as it goes on. Neil's guitar playing on here is arguably his best. He shreds a lot, and it sounds so focused, like Neil was locked in when recording this song. The melodies on here are also insanely catchy, especially the Can I Stay Here for a While. This song works perfectly as a closer on Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. It just feels so cinematic and grand. And Neil executes this ambitious track to absolute perfection. This is the best on the album in my opinion. After the Gold Rush is just beautiful, like one of the prettiest songs ever made. It's a full-on piano ballad with probably Neil's best vocal performance. The lyrics are about nature and how it's falling apart due to man's influence. Neil was always a massive nature guy, and this song, especially the lyric, "Look at Mother Nature on the Run" in the 1970s, is probably his most famous and best usage of the topic. Neil uses imagery of flying into the sun as a way to create a dream of the earth being destroyed. It's a very pretty sounding song, but oddly enough, the lyrics are not exactly the happiest, with themes of the Earth's destruction and evacuating the planet. Even earlier in the track, he talks about lying in a burned out basement and getting high, which isn't exactly the happiest thing in the world. But I also think a new home in the sun could mean something positive, and to me, Mother Nature's silver seed has always represented the fact that nature can never be destroyed, and that it will always live on despite humans actually destroying it. This song is more relevant now than ever.
I've been a miner for a heart of gold.
Heart of Gold is Neil's most famous song. It was his only #1 hit, and calling it a classic feels like an understatement. But this is one of those occasions where the artist's most popular song is one of their best. This song is perfect in every way. It has phenomenal guitar work that, even though it's fairly simple, sticks out due to just how tight and focused it sounds. The chord progression is awesome on this song and is one of his best. The harmonica on here is also amazing. The instrumental bridge is one of the best parts of the song, but the absolute best part of the song is the insanely catchy chorus that progressively gets more intense as the song moves forward. The lyrics are pretty simple, but of course very memorable, as they pretty much popularized the phrase Heart of Gold. This is one of the best hits of the 70s and of all time.
Cortez, Cortez, what a killer.
Cortez the Killer is the best on Zuma in my opinion, and one of the best pure rock songs Neil has ever made. The guitar on here is absolutely insane. Like, it's just one of those performances that stops you in your tracks and makes you sit down and absorb it all. There's absolutely no lyrics in the first 3 minutes, which makes the whole song feel so atmospheric. It's epic, serious, and intense, and Neil's vocals make it even heavier of a listen. Not only is this Neil's best guitar solo from a technical sense, it's also the one that succeeded the most at creating a powerful song. It's rare for a solo of this length and nature to not feel dragged out and pointless. Neil isn't showing off here, he's just doing what he has to make this song feel as grand and meaningful as possible. Hey Hey My Into the Black is the birth of grunge. Not only did the dirty and rough guitar sound on this song spark an entire genre, but it also created one of the darkest songs of all time. This song feels like entering a dark abyss, with the ominous guitar and production, Neil's desperate and passionate singing, and the haunting lyrics about death. The solo on this track is absolutely mind-blowing. Similar to Cortez the Killer, it sounds tense and heavy, but there's just this hopeless and eerie vibe to it, and it leaves me fucked up every single time. I can't imagine the reaction I would have had if I heard this in 1979 for the first time. It sounds like nothing ever had up until this point, and it's aged like absolute perfection. The crazy thing is that it's not even the best version of this song. My, Hey Hey Out of the Blue is the acoustic version of the song. I've always preferred this one over the electric. It has one of the best riffs and chord progressions of all time, and I think it sounds more memorable on the acoustic. This has a totally opposite feel to Into the Black. It's much more soulful and poetic, instead of just sounding like an absolute nightmare. There's some awesome sounding harmonica on here, and Neil's vocals are awesome as usual, especially near the end. The lyrics about the death of rock and roll and Neil's work being forgotten ended up being taken seriously as other meanings. Lyrics like, and once you're gone you can never come back, and of course the iconic, it's better to burn out than to fade away, are absolutely haunting and beautiful lyrics, and there's a reason they are still quoted to this day. Absolute masterpiece. My favorite song off of Harvest is 100% Old Man. Old Man is Neil's biggest hit outside of Heart of Gold during this era, and I think it edges out Heart of Gold due to the incredible lyrics. The vocals and guitar work are definitely on par with Heart of Gold. It's absolutely incredible, and Neil creates a unique and powerful atmosphere. But the reason this song resonates with me and so many others is because of Neil's songwriting skills displayed on this song. 24 and there's so much more. It doesn't mean that much to me to mean that much to you. Old Man, Take a Look at My Life, I'm a Lot Like You. The amount of classic and incredible lyrics on the song is insane. Neil's ability to show his perspective talking to this old man on a farm and how he's on the search for love and fighting his own personal battles sets up the second half perfectly. As we switch to the old man's perspective, he's totally unfazed by the younger man's struggles. His own experience and age makes it seem totally irrelevant, and then we switch back to the young man's perspective, where he's no longer worried about his life and his search for love, saying look at how the time goes past and how he's alone at last, which proves his newfound satisfaction with his life. Neil, the absolute madman, managed to write a song about a young man learning a lesson from an old man in such a beautiful and genuine way, and I don't think anybody could ever replicate a song like this again.
Now I'm living out here on the beach.
Entering the top Neil Young songs, we have some of the greatest pieces of music ever created, and On the Beach is one that I have felt that way about since I first heard the lyrics, "The world is turning, I hope it don't turn away." That beautiful and depressing lyric is comfortably my top 5 lyrics of any artist, and my favorite Neil Young lyric. This song is one of the few Neil songs without a single bit of optimism. Neil's fears as a singer of being left alone due to his fame, which is explored with lyrics like went to the radio interview and ended up alone at the microphone, is the main point of the song, and that idea leads Neil to escape from the spotlight to the beach, but those seagulls are still out of reach, which means that Neil doesn't feel any better fully alone than when he did when he had his audience, even if he felt alone in both situations. But all of this is trapped between the lyrics "The world is turning, I hope it don't turn away." It's on a much bigger scale than his problems as a musician, as he turns to his fear that Earth is only getting worse. Neil's attempts to avoid watching the world fall apart are in vain, and he can't find happiness no matter what. The depressing concept of the song is made even more heartbreaking by the absolutely incredible atmosphere set up by the melancholy guitar work. Running away doesn't solve your problems, but fighting them head on doesn't necessarily solve them either.
Look out, mama, there's a white boat coming up the river.
Powderfinger is the best song on Rest Never Sleeps, and one of the most emotionally powerful rock songs ever made. Sonically, it's absolutely phenomenal, with heavy and hard-hitting production that makes the incredible guitar work sound even fucking better. Some guitar parts on this track, especially the solo near the end, are in my opinion some of Neil's absolute best. I think Neil deserves more credit as a guitarist, because this amount of legendary solos is unmatched by most guitarists ever. But like the majority of this top 10, the lyrics are the real appeal. This is one of the best war songs of all time, if not the best. It's on the same level as tracks like War Pigs and For What It's Worth, but it's quite different in terms of lyrical content. The reason this song is so powerful is because of Neil's ability to make you feel like you're part of this war. The specific details, white boat on the river, big red beacon, daddy's rifle in my hand, and the haunting ending where my face turned black. It tells the story of a man dying while fighting in a war, and you feel like you can connect with this man and feel sympathy for somebody putting his life on the line and ultimately having his life ended. It's an absolutely devastating song.
They're all just pissing in the wind.
On the Beach is a special album. No other artist has been able to capture the feel of pure melancholy quite like Neil, and the most melancholic of the bunch is Ambulance Blues. This song blows me away every single time. It's just Neil with the guitar and some harmonica as well. But Neil makes every instrument he plays sound like they're crying. The pure emotion in every second of the song feels so real. And the most emotional and powerful thing in this track is Neil's unbelievable vocal performance. This song feels like there's no direction to it, almost feeling all over the place, and Neil's vocals are free to go in all sorts of directions. His dead serious and focused singing in parts like You're Just Pissing in the Wind, to his desperate vocals when he sings Had a Different Story for Every Set of Eyes. He's singing these powerful lyrics with absolute pure emotion, and it always leaves me in a totally different mood every time I finish the song. The lyrics on here are incredibly depressing, talking about getting buried in the past, reminiscing in a happier and simpler time that has disappeared from Neil's life due to his fame and drug usage, and making bad decisions that will come back to bite you. I also love the final verse with the I never knew a man that could tell so many lies. It's directed at Richard Nixon, and Neil's criticism of him doesn't feel angry, just disappointed. It feels like Neil doesn't have the energy to criticize Nixon, as he's already given up hope. The real power of this track is this ability to just make you feel depressed and empty inside. I don't think anybody will ever make a song filled with such sadness ever again.
Tell me why.
When I first heard Tell Me Why, I knew it was my favorite Neil Young song, even though it was the first one I ever heard. This is my comfort song. It puts me at peace every time I hear the opening guitar part that immediately transitions into Neil's beautiful vocals. The opening verse is one that inspires you to take chances, even though you don't know what the consequences could be. Still the searcher must ride the dark horse, racing alone in his fright is a lyric I keep in the back of my mind whenever I'm wondering when I should try to do something new, because I never regret it when I do, and I wouldn't have done so much if it wasn't for this song and that lyric especially. The chorus can seem a bit nonsensical at times, even Neil admitted it, but it sounds so pretty and works as a great musical transition into the second verse, which is my favorite verse in all of music. Tell me lies later, come and see me. I'll be around for a while. I am lonely but you can free me, all in the way that you smile. It's so simple, but it's incredibly beautiful. It just summarizes perfectly what pure love feels like. All you want is to see that person, and you don't care how or what they are doing. All you want is to see them, and when you do, you feel at peace with yourself. It's an indescribable feeling, but if anybody in the history of anything has managed to describe it, it's Neil Young on the second verse of Tell Me Why. And while Neil is writing something no human has managed to do, he's singing to the best of his abilities and playing some of the best guitar he's ever played. By the time Neil's singing the chorus again in the outro, I'm already cheered up and feeling like a kid. Nobody can make me feel sadness like Neil Young, and more importantly, nobody can make me feel happiness like Neil Young.